We've got new parks and new recreation amenities across Kawartha Lakes, and I know you're excited to tell me about some of those.
I am. We've got a lot of things happening, and as a result of some of the tough decisions we've had to make over the last few years, we are, I won't say we're out of the woods, but we are certainly in a better financial position as a municipality than I will say a lot of other municipalities are. Depending on what happens with budgets, from other levels of government moving forward. But right now we're investing. We've figured out we have about $3 billion worth of assets in the city of Kawartha Lakes. But we've got a couple of plans that we're working on for some new parks, and Bobcaygeon Beach Park is one of them. And it used to be a trailer park for many, many years. There was trailers in part of it, and people would spend the summer there. So it was a tough decision because a lot of them had been there for 20, 30 years, a generational thing, and that's kind of where they grew up, as their summer cottage. But we had a bit of a vision. We wanted to create something different, and I think our council's committed to about a $6 million investment in the Bobcaygeon Beach Park over several years. And we've got some great plans there where we want to, put some infrastructure in the ground, put a band shell, have some new docking, and, where people can rent a kayak or a boat and just park their boat for the day. Boat parking has always been an issue in Bobcaygeon, so people can park for a day and go visit the village or just hang out in the park. And I think over the next few years you'll see some nice changes in there, and it'll be a nice, refreshing, world class. I like to sort of say that it's going to be an area that's people from all over the city will be able to enjoy, and hopefully attract people from outside the municipality as a bit of a tourist attraction. We'd like to put a skating park in there as well, in one of the parking lots, and a boat launch. And there's a boat launch there now, but just make it a little bit nicer, double launch, and put an area where they can skate. Kids can skate and play around in the parking lot in the summertime, in the wintertime. So
Well, they amplify the Four Seasons angle.
absolutely. I mean, it's winters are long in this area and in a lot of Canada, and it's nice to see people out and about and having some fun. And they had a great experience this year in Balsam Lake Park, where they did some skating trails up there for a weekend as a bit of a test, and they had like 2,500 people showed up, and it was a total win. So those are the kind of things we're trying to create, taking that tourism season from one summer season and spreading it over the rest of the year. So I think Bobcaygeon Beach Park will go a long way to doing that.
What about Logie Street Park in Lindsay? I get asked a lot about that one. Where are the lilacs? What happened to them? Why did they wreck them?
Yeah, they didn't wreck them. Yeah, I know. I get asked a lot about it too. So no, it's used to be the Lilac Park, and where the Lilac Festival was and such. So those have been on board with the Lilac Committee. Those have been put into storage. They've been cared for very tenderly, and they're being stored properly. And they're redoing the Logie Park, again, spending quite a bit of money there to make this sort of an entranceway, into Lindsay. So there's going to be a nice splash pad there that will have skating capacity on the splash pad in the wintertime. So it'll be something a little bit unique, and just they're going to put some other amenities there, and they will be putting the lilacs back and putting them back in place in a much new, sort of more improved park. And a lot of that's going to happen this summer. So a lot of that's going to take place this summer and probably into next year. Bobcaygeon will probably be over the next 2 or 3 years. And we're trying to do it where, like, especially in Bobcaygeon, where it's around the summer season. So it'll probably, most of it people will see it starting in the fall, and we'll try to work when, so they still have their park, because there's events that go on in the park, car shows and such like that. So we're hoping Logie Street Park, there's a lot of development going on in that area, that people will have a nice park that we'll be able to utilize even more down there. So lots of exciting things happening in the Kawartha Lakes.
That's great. And I've got a note here too that I wanted to ask you about boat launches. I know you mentioned it in Bobcaygeon.
Yeah.
But around the city, I think there's more of that.
We have quite a few boat launches. I can't tell you the exact number, but we've got a lot of them. And what we're doing is we're upgrading them all, sort of so many a year. We'll try to do 5 or 6 a year as an ongoing item in our budget. And so we're improving those. We realize that, a lot of people come up here, and whether they have a cottage or they just come up for the day and they want to go fishing, or they want to go out in a canoe and explore the lakes as part of tourism, that our boat launches are important. They, a nice clean area where they can launch a boat. So we've got a program in place over the last bunch of years where we've been improving our boat launches sort of 5 or 6 a year at a time, and we're getting through them pretty good. So Bobcaygeon's going to be another good example. They've had a single boat launch there for a long time. We're going to make it a little more accessible with a double boat launch for a little bit more traffic, and should be good for everybody to access our lake. So.
Great. And what is the Wilson Estate Fund investing in that Old Mill Park? I notice
Yeah,
There's something going
the
on there.
Wilson Estate is a fund that was granted to the town of Lindsay quite a few years ago, and every year they have X number of dollars to spend in interest that they put into Lindsay parks, and it helps take some of the burden off the taxpayers as well in the Lindsay area. And so the Mill Park, they're looking at doing some walkway there. So what they've approved, I'm actually on the Wilson Estate Committee, what they've approved this year is some improvements to the walkway in Naoral Park, and they don't think it'll utilize the entire budget, so whatever's left over, they're going to improve some of the walkways in Mill Park as well. And if they don't get to it this year, they'll be doing it next year. So just connecting walkways and expanding them, so like, you know, along the river in Mill Park, there's a nicer area to walk there where it's more continuous. It's like chopped up a little bit right now, so over time that's a nice park that hopefully will get utilized a little bit more.
There's some private property on one side, and then the other way it takes you right down to the locks.
Right down the locks, yeah. So just some kind of continuous walkway where people can, you know, park and either play on the equipment there and then transition and go down to the locks and sort of enjoy themselves.
Okay, and speaking of splash pads, you mentioned them earlier, but there's one going in at the Elgin Park as well, I think.
There is. The Elgin Park splash pad's been an old, tired splash pad for a long, long time. So that's going to be open for this season. You're going to see that was approved in Council's budget. I think it's in partnership with the Rotary Club. So it's a great community partner that we have. And that splash pad will be redone. They're going to do some work over the summer around it, but the splash pad will be operational for this season. So it doesn't take long to get a new one in there, and it's one of those splash pads that's due for an upgrade. So that should be good for the people in that area to enjoy. They need to cool off in the summertime, whether it's kids or seniors.
Now that one won't be a hockey rink or a
No.
ice rink in the winter.
It will not. No, that's just going to be strictly a splash pad. I know the Boys and Girls Club is putting a very high-end splash pad in as well in Lindsay. And that's set to go in May. So we're going to have 3 pretty nice splash pads in the Lindsay area, one in Logie, one at the Boys and Girls Club, and the one at Elgin. So I think between the 3 of them, there'll be a great opportunity for people to get wet and stay cool this summer.
All right, and lastly, in this segment, let's talk about I guess we've talked about some of the upgraded playgrounds in this year and the boat launches. What about the shoreline restoration at McDonald Park East? And I think there's some monument restoration going on as well.
Yeah, they're doing some shoreline and really just fixing up that whole area. And I mean, it sort of continues under the bridge there and over toward the old Public Works depot that we had there along the river. But they're just fixing up, shoring up the shoreline, for lack of a better word, and cleaning up some of the parkland and just making it a little bit more accessible, and it'll be easier for people to use. And it's a nice area down there. It's a nice area to walk, and I know on the west side of the river they've got a nice little walkway, and I think they're going to fix up that whole docking area just north of the bridge there as well. So you'll see a nicer area over as summer goes on that people can utilize along the waterfront.